Outside the alien demon region, Lin Dong and his companions reappeared. Senior Fantion looked at the world around him, now eons older, and couldn't help but sigh with mixed emotions. "Let's head straight to the Great Yin Dynasty," Lin Dong said with a smile, clearly in good spirits after resolving Senior Fantion's matters. Qing Tan and Senior Fantion had no objections, but Ling Qingzhu bit her lip and gazed at Lin Dong, slowly shaking her head. "I'll return to the Nine Heavens Taiqing Palace first. The palace is in the opposite direction of the Great Yin Dynasty, so it's best if we part ways here." "You're not coming to the Great Yin Dynasty? Why?" Lin Dong asked, taken aback. Ling Qingzhu's clear eyes lingered on Lin Dong's face for a moment before she gave a faint smile. "You're asking me to visit your home. Do you know what that implies?" Lin Dong fell silent, realizing that bringing Ling Qingzhu to the Great Yin Dynasty would essentially mean introducing her as his future wife. "If you're willing to go, I think my family would be delighted to welcome you," Lin Dong replied after some thought. Ling Qingzhu smiled slightly. "Once you've sorted out your feelings, then say that again. Otherwise, there might always be a lingering sense of unfairness in your heart." Lin Dong paused, his expression shifting slightly. He understood Ling Qingzhu's meaning. Her pride was unwavering. If he wanted her to visit the Great Yin Dynasty, it had to be because he truly wanted her there, with no lingering doubts. Ling Qingzhu observed his expression, sighed softly, and with a slightly bitter smile hidden behind her thin veil, turned away and began to leave. "You've already learned the Supreme Perception Technique, so there's no reason for me to stay. The Nine Heavens Taiqing Palace is still under reconstruction, and as its master, I can't stay away too long. I must return to focus on comprehending the reincarnation," she said. "Let's part ways here." Lin Dong watched her graceful departing figure, a sense of sadness swelling within him. With sudden resolve, he gritted his teeth and grabbed her delicate, jade-like wrist. "You traveled all the way to the Northern Mystery region with me, and even taught me the Supreme Perception Technique. If I just let you go like this, people would say I, Lin Dong, am heartless." He frowned. "Regardless, you're coming with me to the Great Yin Dynasty, and then I'll personally escort you back to the Nine Heavens Taiqing Palace. I won't let you leave otherwise." Surprised and embarrassed, Ling Qingzhu tried to pull away, but Lin Dong's grip was like iron. Though fiercely independent, seeing his stubborn face made her bite her lip, unable to break free. Qing Tan watched the scene with a pout. "Let's go," Lin Dong said, not waiting for Ling Qingzhu's objection, pulling her along toward the Great Yin Dynasty. Ling Qingzhu struggled briefly, but his hand held firm like a vice. She finally gave in, biting her lip as she glared at his back. This man truly was unreasonable. The capital of the Great Yin Dynasty had grown immensely from its past prosperity, a testament to the dynasty's newfound strength. Once a minor kingdom, the dynasty was now respected by even the superpowers and sects, all due to the Lin family's influence, a fact known across the Eastern Mystery region. In the city's northern district stood an expansive courtyard, the most esteemed place in the entire Great Yin Dynasty, outshining even the imperial palace nearby. This was the Lin family's ancestral estate. Around the estate, in high positions, stood vigilant figures, the unwavering guardians of the Tiger Devourer army. Though Little Flame had returned to the Beast region, he'd left behind 1,000 Tiger Devourer soldiers to guard the Lin clan, ensuring no one dared to covet the family's power. With Lin Xiao as the newly appointed patriarch, the Lin clan's position was even more prestigious. Known for his strict governance, Lin Xiao did not hesitate to enact harsh measures to maintain the clan's honor. Anyone who tarnished the family's name faced severe punishment, and even the Elder Council dared not object. They all knew full well what had secured the Lin family's standing. At the edge of the imperial capital's skyline, a streak of light suddenly shot through the sky. Within moments, it swept into the capital and headed straight for the Lin family clan. The elite warriors of the Tiger Devouring army, guarding the Lin clan, immediately sensed the presence. However, their vigilance quickly faded, replaced by a fervent respect. One by one, they dropped to a knee in reverence. Inside the Lin family residence, many of the younger generation were taken aback by their elders' actions. Their eyes widened with excitement, and a surge of joy rushed through them. They all understood that the only person capable of commanding such awe from these powerful warriors was none other than the legendary figure of the Lin family. The young clan leader has returned. The ecstatic uproar spread like wildfire within the Lin clan. Hearing the commotion from the clan, Lin Xiao, who had been in the meeting hall, also noticed the stir. He immediately gathered a few elders and rushed out. As they stepped into the courtyard outside the hall, several figures appeared in a flash of light. Donger. Standing behind Lin Xiao, Lu Yin immediately recognized the figure who had just appeared, her face lighting up with joy. Lin Xiao also smiled warmly. Lin Dong grinned at them and moved aside, revealing the girl hiding behind him. You, Qing Tan? Both Lu Yin and Lin Xiao froze, their eyes widening in surprise. Father, mother. Qing Tan, who had been a bit cautious at first, couldn't hold back when she saw Lu Yan's tears falling. Her eyes immediately reddened, and she rushed into Lu Yan's arms with a cry, like a young bird returning to its nest. Lu Yan quickly embraced her. Looking at the familiar face of the girl in her arms, she noticed how much Qing Tan had changed. The youthful innocence was gone, replaced by a maturity that made Lu Yan's heart ache. This pain was even stronger than the worry she had felt for Lin Dong during his travels. You little girl, not a word from you all these years. You wanted to give us a heart attack? Lu Yan exclaimed, her heart full of both love and frustration. She slapped the girl's rear end with a forceful tap. Qing Tan yelped, her face turning red as she buried her head deeper into Lu Yan's embrace. In that moment, she seemed nothing like the fierce and imposing master of the Dark Hall, but rather a lost child returned home after running away. So you finally decided to come back? Lin Xiao said, trying to act stern. Father, I missed you so much, Qing Tan replied, holding onto Lin Xiao's large hand and beaming with a smile. Lin Xiao snorted, about to scold her, but seeing her smiling face, he couldn't bring himself to say a word. This little girl, how much hardship had she endured outside? Just thinking about it made his heart ache. It's good that you're back, but if you ever run away again without a word, I'll have your brother give you a good beating. Lin Xiao grumbled, but then his expression softened. He gently rubbed Qing Tan's small head, sighing, well, it's good that you're back. That's all that matters. Father, mother, I'm sorry, I know I was wrong. Hearing the relief in Lin Xiao's voice, Qing Tan's eyes reddened. Over the years, she had gone through so much, and she understood just how precious and pure the love her parents gave her was. Lin Dong smiled slightly as he watched his parents' emotional reunion. At last, their family was together again. Lu Yin, still holding Qing Tan, suddenly noticed Ling Qingzhu standing beside Lin Dong. She froze for a moment. At that moment, Ling Qingzhu had removed her veil, revealing her stunning beauty. Although Lu Yin recognized her instantly, there was a glint of surprise in her eyes as she quickly tugged at Lin Xiao's sleeve. Realizing her attention, Lin Xiao turned and smiled broadly at Ling Qingzhu. Clearing his throat, he said, Donger, you bring a guest home and don't even introduce her? Lin Dong was speechless. Haven't you two already met? Ling Qingzhu, feeling the sudden attention, blushed slightly. Previously, she had only visited the Lin family as Lin Dong's friend. Now, with so many curious eyes on her, the atmosphere felt somewhat more intimate than before. Junior Ling Qingzhu, greetings to both elders, Ling Qingzhu said, her face tinged with a rare shyness as she curtsied gracefully. Her beauty, already breathtaking, seemed even more radiant now, and her elegant demeanor left everyone around her in awe. Even Lin Dong was momentarily captivated by her. The courtyard, which had been quiet just moments before, was now filled with the Lin clan's younger generation, perched on the walls and even trees, their eyes fixed on Ling Qingzhu. Whispers and excited murmurs began to spread. Wow, what a beautiful fairy-like sister. What's her relationship with Lin Dong? Isn't that obvious? Lin Dong brought her to meet his parents, so what do you think? Although the envious exclamations were spreading outside, Ling Qingzhu's perception was so sharp that she could hear them clearly. Immediately, a flush of heat appeared on her beautiful face. She bit her silver teeth in frustration and shot an annoyed glare at Lin Dong, who was awkwardly laughing beside her. Hee hee, so it's Miss Qingzhu, Lu Yin said with a smile as she walked over, pulling Ling Qingzhu along. Her eyes constantly scanned over Qingzhu, and the joy and satisfaction in her gaze were impossible to hide. Under her gaze, Qingzhu's discomfort only grew stronger, but she could only brace herself and meet Lu Yan's gaze. Lu Yin clearly had a deep affection for Ling Qingzhu. Knowing that Qingzhu was a reserved person who disliked being the center of attention, Lu Yin quickly led her and Qingtan into the house. After that, the surrounding yard erupted with countless frustrated howls. Lin Dong was secretly irritated. With a sharp glance, the figures on the yard walls quickly shrank back in embarrassment. Soon, the yard was filled with a series of mournful cries. The commotion caused by Ling Qingzhu's presence within the clan hadn't subsided for a long time. In the vast courtyard, buzzing discussions filled the air. Many of the younger members of the Lin clan wore envious expressions. Though they had only stolen a few glances, Ling Qingzhu's stunning beauty and her cool, aloof aura often left even Lin Dong in awe. How much more so for these young, inexperienced members of the clan. As for the stir Ling Qingzhu caused, Lin Dong could only feel helpless. However, at this moment, he had no chance to speak with her. Lu Yin seemed to be particularly fond of Qingzhu, so she dragged her and Qingtan into the house. After a long time, there was no sign of them, clearly having a very happy conversation. Seeing this, Lin Dong gave up on the idea of joining them. After chatting for a while with Lin Xiao, the latter suddenly smiled and patted his shoulder, pointing ahead. Lin Dong turned his gaze in that direction and saw several figures approaching quickly. The person at the front was a charming woman, slightly older than Lin Dong, with a vaguely familiar face. Behind her were three men. Although many years had passed, Lin Dong immediately recognized them. His calm demeanor was shaken, and ripples of emotion stirred in his heart. These four were none other than Lin Xia, Lin Hong, Lin Shan, and Lin Changqiang. They were all blood relatives of Lin Dong. They had grown up together in Qingyang town, though they had some minor conflicts as children. Seeing them again now, however, brought a warmth to his heart. Lin Dong. The charming woman gazed at him, eyes full of surprise, though there was also a hint of restraint. After all, it had been many years since they last met. And now, Lin Dong was no longer the weak boy who used to follow them around causing mischief in Qingyang town. He had become a powerful figure standing at the pinnacle of the world, not only within the Lin clan, but even in the entire Eastern Mystery region. There were few who could match his strength. Lin Xia, it's been a long time. Lin Dong smiled gently as he looked at Lin Xia. He noticed the restraint in their eyes as well, and immediately stepped forward, giving her a warm hug. Then, he embraced Lin Hong and the others in turn. Having experienced so much life and death, he valued the bond of blood ties deeply. The four of them smiled joyously at Lin Dong's actions. The earlier restraint vanished, and Lin Xia chatted happily with him, no longer the fierce, big sister she used to be. Lin Hong and Lin Shan also chuckled at Lin Dong, remembering how, as children, they used to make trouble for him. But later, they had also suffered many defeats at his hands. Now, they held high status within the Lin clan, and sometimes, simply mentioning how they once clashed with Lin Dong was enough to earn them near worship from the younger members of the clan. Lin Changqiang, on the other hand, still looked as round and jolly as ever. He had always had a soft spot for Qingtan, often following her around as a child. Back then, his relationship with Lin Dong had been quite good. As Lin Dong laughed and chatted with the four, he looked at their familiar faces, and memories of the old days in Qingyang town flooded his mind. Even with his hardened heart, shaped by countless battles and hardships, he couldn't help but feel a faint sense of warmth. Meanwhile, in the room, Ling Qingzhu, who had been talking with Lu Yin, subtly raised her head. Her gaze followed the window, and she caught sight of Lin Dong's face. At that moment, his face seemed to have regained some of its youthful innocence, which reminded her of their first meeting. Qingzhu. Lu Yin called gently a couple of times, bringing Qingzhu back to her senses. She quickly looked at Lu Yan's smiling face, and a blush spread across her flawless cheeks. She hurriedly said, Please just call me Xue. Lu Yin smiled and nodded. Xue, has Lin Dong been bothering you? Xue blushed slightly, not knowing how to respond, and could only harbor a deep grudge against Lin Dong in her heart. Next, Lin Dong introduced Elder Fan Tian to Lin Xiao. Upon hearing the elder's identity, Lin Xiao instantly became respectful. A powerhouse of this caliber could easily stand as a sect leader in the Eastern Mystery region. Having him as a guest elder for their Lin clan was truly an immense fortune. Due to his connection with Lin Dong, Elder Fan Tian treated Lin Xiao with particular courtesy. After some discussion, he decided to stay with the Lin clan for the time being, as he had no acquaintances left in this world and felt it would be meaningful to stay here, guiding the younger generation. Seeing them enjoying their conversation, Lin Dong smiled and quietly stepped away, wandering through the extensive grounds of the Lin clan estate. Along the way, he encountered various younger members of the clan, all of whom looked at him with intense admiration. Even the elders of the clan couldn't help but show similar expressions. Lin Dong gave a wry smile at their reactions and took a quiet path, ambling along peaceful trails. Walking among the scattered stones and shaded woods, specks of light filtered down, draping him in a gentle, lazy warmth. A faint smile curved on his lips. The feeling of being home was truly wonderful. He leapt up to a large, lush tree, reclining comfortably on a branch. Gradually, he closed his eyes and drifted into a peaceful slumber. By the time he awoke, it was late afternoon. As the sun dipped low in the sky, he opened his eyes, which were as calm and deep as a starry night, drawing others into their quiet depths. Within his Niwen palace, his vast spiritual energy seemed to have subtly condensed even further. Stretching lazily, Lin Dong moved to descend, but suddenly caught a faint fluctuation of spiritual energy coming from deeper within the forest. There was something vaguely familiar about it. Seems like there are quite a few familiar faces around, he murmured, sighing softly. Curious, he made his way deeper into the woods, eventually arriving at a quiet stream where he saw a lone figure seated in meditation. The figure wore a simple dress, her calm demeanor and side profile delicate and beautiful. From her face, Lin Dong felt a familiar sensation. It was Lin Kuer. They had met years ago in Flame City, and it was her arrival back then that led him to the ancient tomb and that fateful encounter with Ling Qingzhu. At this moment, Lin Kuer seemed to be in the midst of cultivation, her body surrounded by powerful spiritual energy, which was near the peak level of a heaven talisman master. With just one more step, she could enter the minor completion of a mortal talisman master. Lin Dong had noticed her talent in spiritual energy years ago, and it seemed she had made quite a bit of progress since then. Observing her quietly, Lin Dong smiled, his mind gently releasing a wave of spiritual energy that wrapped around Lin Kuer's energy. Startled by the sudden envelopment, Lin Kuer's spiritual energy rose defensively, ready to resist, but then she sensed a warm familiarity in the mysterious energy that calmed her. Under this comforting influence, her spiritual energy gradually relaxed, like a child in its mother's embrace. Slowly, her energy strengthened, breaking through the barrier she had been stuck at, reaching the level of an immortal talisman master. As that warmth faded, Lin Kuer's eyes opened suddenly. She was momentarily stunned, then quickly turned to gaze into the distance, where a slender figure was slowly disappearing into the trees. Lin Dong. She bit her lip, watching his carefree, retreating figure. Memories from years ago flooded back to her mind, and she smiled, though her expression held a trace of bittersweet emotion. When Lin Dong returned to his resting quarters, he happened to see Lu Yin stepping out of her room. Smiling, he walked over to greet her. "They're all resting?" Lu Yin nodded, smiling warmly at her son, who now stood a head taller than her. She remembered the days years ago, when the young Lin Dong had trained relentlessly to win a spiritual herb for Lin Xiao. Now, that once frail boy had become the pride of the entire Lin clan. "Donger, Qingzhu is a good person. Your mother likes her," Lu Yin said with a soft laugh, holding Lin Dong's arm. Lin Dong chuckled awkwardly at her comment. "But why didn't you bring Huan back with you this time?" Lu Yin asked, looking at him with gentle curiosity. "I like that girl too." Lindong forced a smile. He too was currently caught in such a troublesome situation. He had feelings for both Ling Qingzhu and Ing Huahuan. He could sense the efforts and sacrifices they had made for him, but unfortunately, both women were proud and ambitious. One was now the esteemed master of the Nine Heavens Taiching Palace, and the other was the reincarnation of the Ice Lord. These were such exceptional women that most people would consider themselves incredibly fortunate to win the affection of even one of them. Yet here he was, entangled with both, unsure whether it was a blessing or a curse. Lu Yin, being someone who had been through similar experiences, immediately understood Lindong's expression. She covered her mouth and smiled, saying, "Looks like Donger is quite the popular catch after all." Lindong was a little embarrassed and helplessly said, "Mother, please don't tease me. This matter can only be decided by you, but I do like these two girls." Lu Yin smiled. Her words made Lindong chuckle awkwardly. His mother's request was no small task, after all. Lu Yin looked at Lindong and suddenly sighed. "And then there's Qing Tan." "What about Qing Tan?" Lindong asked, confused. Lu Yin opened her mouth as if to say something but sighed again, shaking her head in mild frustration. She reached out and pinched Lindong's ear, saying, "Nothing. I'm going back to rest. You should get some sleep too." With that, she turned to leave, shaking her head. Her son was so outstanding. It really made things troublesome. And then there was Qing Tan. Now that everything had calmed down, Lindong was spending more time with his family. He had spent most of the past 8 years wandering the world, but now that his family was reunited, he wanted to spend more time with them. He was well aware that, although the world seemed peaceful on the surface, beneath it, countless hidden currents were stirring. The alien demons, long concealed, were slowly emerging, and no one knew exactly what their next move would be. However, Lindong couldn't shake the unease in his heart. Perhaps this temporary calm was just the calm before the storm. In such a quietly tense atmosphere, Lindong found himself increasingly reluctant to leave the peaceful moments spent with his family. What puzzled Lindong, however, was that Ling Qingzhu had never brought up returning to the Nine Heavens Taiching Palace. But seeing how much Lu Yin liked her, chatting with her every day, Lindong didn't dare to mention it. If they were happy, he would let them be. After a few days of calm, Lindong was suddenly summoned by Lin Xiao. "You want me to go to the Great Wilderness Province? What for?" In the courtyard, Lindong paused for a moment after hearing Lin Xiao's request, his expression full of confusion. "The Great Wilderness Province is not the same as it was before," Lin Xiao replied. "Not the same?" Lindong was taken aback. The Great Wilderness Province had been his first place of adventure after leaving Qingyang Town and Yin City. Back then, the region was in chaos, filled with various factions. It was also where he had discovered the Great Wilderness Monument, which held the ancient sect that had helped him obtain his devouring ancestral talisman. His fate had been deeply tied to that place. At that time, he had taken many cursed nirvana pills from there, but it had been the guardian who helped him purify the curse in the end. Now, the Great Yin Dynasty actually has two powerful forces, Lin Xiao continued. The 4 great clans, apart from our Lin clan, have all mostly fallen into decline. And these 2 forces? Lindong asked. One is our Lin clan, and the other is the Eagle sect of the Great Wilderness Province. This time, when the Great Yin Dynasty was under siege by other dynasties, the Eagle sect helped defend the northern borders. The Eagle sect? Lindong was surprised. When had this force emerged? The Eagle sect originally started as a martial arts school in the Great Wilderness Province. But 5 years ago, the Eagle Martial Arts School suddenly rose to power, unifying the entire Great Wilderness Province in just 1 year. From what we know, their influence has spread to many nearby dynasties, and their strength is quite astonishing, Lin Xiao explained. The Eagle Martial Arts School? The familiar name made Lindong blink, and then astonishment filled his eyes. Life truly was full of surprises. He never expected that the small martial arts school he had helped protect years ago had now grown so powerful. How did they become so strong so suddenly? Lindong asked curiously. He clearly remembered that the Eagle Martial Arts School had been quite weak back then. How could they possibly have the strength to unify the entire Great Wilderness Province? It's said that they obtained the sect inheritance from the Great Wilderness Monument. Now, the Eagle sect's headquarters is located near the monument. Guarding it closely, Lin Xiao smiled. The current sect master of the Eagle sect should be a woman named Jiang Xue. Jiang Xue. Lin Dong's mind went blank for a moment, and distant memories surged forth. He remembered the beautiful girl, dressed in a long skirt, her graceful figure revealed in the dimly lit room. It was unexpected that the girl from back then would now become the sect leader of the Eagle sect, the ruler of Great Wilderness Province. Such a transformation truly feels remarkable. Clearly, after he left Great Wilderness Province, some things had happened there. Are you asking me to go because of the Eagle sect? Lin Dong asked. Lin Xiao nodded, frowning slightly. You should know something about the Great Wilderness Monument. Recently, it's been having some serious issues. The Eagle sect can't resolve them and has asked for help from our Lin clan. If you have time, it'd be good for you to take a trip. The Great Wilderness Monument has problems? Lin Dong frowned too, but quickly nodded. The ancient sect associated with the monument had shown him kindness. He had obtained the devouring ancestral talisman there, and the Great Wilderness celestial prison finger he acquired from that place had helped him survive countless life and death crises. Now that they were in trouble, it was only right for him to lend his full support. Go quickly and return soon. Lin Xiao nodded. Lin Dong was no longer the boy who needed his guidance. With his current strength, not many in the vast world could stand in his way, let alone within the great Yin dynasty. Lin Dong smiled and didn't delay. This time, however, he traveled alone. Though the great Yin dynasty was vast, with his speed, it took only half an hour before he entered the Great Wilderness Province. Hovering in the sky, Lin Dong looked down at the land below, his eyes filled with nostalgic memories. Years ago, he had left Flame City, crossed various provinces, and eventually reached this place, where his journey of honing his skills had truly begun. After getting his bearings, Lin Dong headed directly toward the center of Great Wilderness Province. As he approached, he was surprised to see many cities flying huge flags in the wind. These flags bore the image of a soaring eagle, its sharp gaze exuding a menacing aura. Clearly, this must be the Eagle sect's banner. But to think that their control over Great Wilderness Province was this strong. So much so that the royal family's influence had completely faded here. While Lin Dong's thoughts raced, his figure swiftly covered thousands of miles. When he looked up, his heart stirred slightly as he saw a massive city standing on the ancient plains. Countless figures flitted through the air above it, its bustling vibrancy rivaling that of the imperial capital. From a distance, Lin Dong's gaze fell on the center of the city, where an enormous stone monument stood silently. As he stared at the familiar monument, a wave of complex emotions washed over him. The Great Wilderness Celestial Prison Finger. Lin Dong smiled faintly. That martial art had been his most powerful weapon back in the day, helping him through countless life and death struggles. And it was from the Great Wilderness Monument that he had acquired it. His body transformed into a stream of light that shot through the sky, and within moments, he appeared before the massive monument. Standing with his hands behind his back, Lin Dong gazed at it, the nostalgia in his eyes growing deeper. However, the monument now seemed to have become a sacred relic of the Eagle sect, with ordinary people strictly forbidden from approaching. The area around it was heavily guarded. Initially, the guards didn't notice Lin Dong's presence, but when they finally realized he was standing there, lost in thought, the sharp blare of alarms rang out. Countless figures rushed in from all directions, quickly surrounding him. At the same time, in a tall building within the city, a woman in a pale yellow gown stood gracefully, her stunning features carrying a hint of authority, the kind that comes from holding a high position. She held a cup of fragrant tea in her hand, her gaze quietly fixed on the distance, lost in thought. Ahem. A light cough suddenly came from behind her. The woman blinked and turned her head, seeing a middle-aged man with graying hair standing there. She smiled faintly. Father. The man walked forward, gazing at the grand city before them with a deep sigh. Xue, you really are something. In just a few short years, you've turned our little martial arts school into the ruler of Great Wilderness Province. I merely inherited the blessings of those who came before me, the woman, Jiang Xue, said with a slight shake of her head. The middle-aged man, Jiang Lei, looked at her with a pained expression and forced a smile. But you're not a young girl anymore. When will you start thinking about yourself? Countless talented young men across the great Yin dynasty admire you. Is there really no one you're interested in? Jiang Xue, the beautiful woman who had once been part of the humble Eagle martial arts school, now took a sip of her tea and smiled lightly. Don't rush. I see. You must have someone in your heart already, right? Jiang Lei chuckled bitterly. Jiang Xue, holding a cup of tea in her jade-like hand, trembled slightly. She raised her head and smiled. What are you talking about, father? You really think I don't know what you were doing in Lin Dong's room that night? Jiang Lei sighed. A blush instantly appeared on Jiang Xue's jade-like face. She looked at Jiang Lei with flushed cheeks, losing her usual sharpness for a moment. Father, how did you know about that? Jiang Lei looked at her rare display of shyness and sighed even more deeply. You must have heard the rumors by now, right? Lin Dong is now in the imperial capital. He's no longer the young man we had to help out of the misty forest. He's changed. Jiang Xue bit her lip, then let out a soft laugh. I'm not surprised by his achievements. He was always meant to soar like an eagle in the 9 skies. Perhaps by now, he's already forgotten about me, but what does that matter? As long as I remember him, that's enough. You silly girl! Jiang Lei was at a loss for words at her words, and could only shake his head helplessly. Whoosh! Just as the two were talking, the sharp sound of a police siren suddenly rang out across the city, causing their expressions to change. Soon, they heard the sound of rushing wind. Sect Master, someone has infiltrated the forbidden area. They are now in front of the Great Wilderness Monument. Upon hearing this, Jiang Xue's beautiful face immediately turned cold. Her figure flickered, and she dashed toward the direction of the Great Wilderness Monument. At the same time, her voice rang out across the city. Eagle Sect disciples, listen up. Lock down the city and activate the formation. In the center of the city, the sky and ground were covered with a sea of people. Their sharp gazes were all fixed on the thin figure in front of the Great Wilderness Monument, clearly prepared to strike and turn him into mush the moment an order was given. However, despite being surrounded, the figure in front of the stone monument remained still. His hands were clasped behind his back as he quietly gazed at the ancient stone monument. Whoosh! Sect Master! From a distance, a whistling sound cut through the air as a graceful figure appeared in the midst of the crowd. A thunderous, respectful voice rang out in unison. Jiang Xue's cold face was impassive as she raised her jade hand and glanced at the thin figure in front of the monument. Her eyebrows furrowed slightly. Who are you? Why have you trespassed into the Eagle Sect's forbidden area? Hearing her voice, the figure, who seemed to be of a noble origin, trembled slightly. He slowly turned around and looked at Jiang Xue. A gentle smile appeared on his face. Jiang Xue, it's been a long time. I trust you're doing well? Jiang Xue's body stiffened. She stared at the young face, which seemed vaguely familiar. The disciples of the Eagle Sect, standing around her, were shocked to see their usually stern and cold sect master suddenly frozen in place. You're Lin Dong? Jiang Xue's body stiffened, and she stared dazedly at the smiling young face. Her hand, holding the tea, slowly tightened into a fist. Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke. Lin Dong. Her voice was soft, but it was still heard by the nearby Eagle Sect disciples. They immediately froze, their eyes wide with shock as they stared at the young man in front of them. This name was known by everyone in the Great Yin Dynasty. Is this the same Lin Dong who destroyed the most powerful super sect in the Eastern Mystery region? Lin Dong smiled faintly at Jiang Xue. His gaze was filled with a certain complexity. All those years ago, Jiang Xue was just a determined woman, protecting the Eagle Martial Arts School. Yet now, after so many years, she had become the sect master of the Eagle Sect. It seemed that fate was not something that only he could possess. Jiang Xue slowly came to her senses. She gave Lin Dong a long, thoughtful look before gently waving her hand. The Eagle Sect forces in the sky immediately dispersed, She took light steps, moving toward Lin Dong and said, "I never thought I would see you again." Lin Dong looked at her, sensing the complicated emotions in her eyes. Although he felt a little confused, he smiled and replied, "I didn't expect that after all these years, the Eagle Martial Arts School would become the prominent Eagle sect of the Great Yin Dynasty. You've truly done well. This little achievement, it probably doesn't even catch your eye, right?" Jiang Xue said with a sigh. Though the Eagle sect had grown, it was still far behind those super sections. Now, the most powerful super sects in the Eastern Mystery region had all been destroyed by Lin Dong. With such power, how could a small Eagle sect possibly compare? Lin Dong let out a dry laugh at her slightly resentful tone, unsure how to respond. "Haha, Lin Dong, is it really you?" Suddenly, a hearty laugh came from behind. "Hee hee, Uncle Jiang Lei," Lin Dong said with a smile, looking at the middle-aged man's somewhat familiar face. His own smile appeared as well as he cupped his hands in greeting. Jiang Lei's face lit up with joy as he stared at Lin Dong. There was even a hint of excitement in his eyes. Lin Dong had become a legendary figure in the Eastern Mystery region, and many sought to befriend him. However, who would have thought that this legendary figure had once represented their Eagle Martial Arts School in battle all those years ago? With your current status, you probably don't even remember people like us anymore, huh? Jiang Xue said, biting her red lips with a hint of resentment. She had noticed that Lin Dong and Jiang Lei were chatting enthusiastically, while she barely received a glance. Jiang Lei glanced at Jiang Xue helplessly. This girl had been in charge of major matters at the Eagle sect for years and was always meticulous, yet now, she seemed just like the way she was back then. "Miss Jiang Xue, don't tease me. If you and the others hadn't brought me out of the misty forest back then, I might have ended up as wolf food," Lin Dong chuckled bitterly. He wasn't sure where Jiang Xue's resentment came from. Could it be because of that night so many years ago? As he thought of this, Lin Dong's gaze inadvertently swept over Jiang Xue's delicate figure, and a trace of embarrassment flashed in his eyes. After all, no woman would be pleased to be rejected after offering herself. Although his glance was brief, Jiang Xue was no longer the same girl who had once sought his help. Her sharp eyes caught his gaze, and a hint of red spread across her cheeks. She shot him a glare, her expression a mix of embarrassment and anger. "Ahem. The reason I'm back is because my father received your request for help. I came to see what's going on with the Great Wilderness Monument," Lin Dong explained, his tone turning curious. "By the way, do you have any connection with this Great Wilderness Monument?" Jiang Lei nodded with a smile. "After you left, Xue also entered the Great Wilderness Monument. She was recognized by the spirit of the monument and inherited the legacy of the ancient sect. That's how we founded the Eagle sect to guard the Great Wilderness Monument." Lin Dong was surprised and looked at Jiang Xue. He too had encountered the spirit of the Great Wilderness Monument, but all he had gained was the Great Wilderness Celestial Prison Finger. He hadn't inherited any sect legacy. To think that Jiang Xue had achieved such great things? "Tell me about the problem with the Great Wilderness Monument," Lin Dong said, pointing at the monument. As Jiang Xue began to speak seriously, her brow furrowed slightly. "The situation inside the Great Wilderness Monument is different from before. Do you remember the guardian inside the monument?" Lin Dong nodded. He had been relentlessly hunted by that guardian in the past, though he had eventually repaid a favor with the Nirvana pill. "You probably know that in ancient times, the Great Wilderness sect was attacked by the alien demons. A massive battle took place, and the sect was destroyed. The alien demons also suffered significant losses, which led to dark energy lingering deep underground. Over the years, that dark energy has been seeping out. Looks like it's the demonic energy," Lin Dong sighed. He had sensed it during his journey here, but he hadn't expected that the old enemies were still at work. Now, he could also understand what had happened to the Great Wilderness Monument. This was likely the result of the devouring Ancestral Talisman, much like the fall of the Thunder House to the alien demons. Inside the Great Wilderness Monument, there remain the wills of many of the sect's ancestors. Over the years, the Guardian has absorbed these wills, and it has changed. Initially, the change was for the better, but as the demonic energy began to seep out, the Guardian was gradually corrupted. Yet, despite this, He is a man of unyielding will and refuses to harm anything from the great wilderness sect. He only howls in agony every day, Jiang Xue said with a soft sigh. Lin Dong's expression darkened. He had great respect for that guardian, who had given everything to protect the sect. Even after death, he had remained bound to his duty, forever guarding the sect with unrelenting devotion. Lin Dong couldn't help but feel sympathy for the guardian's current plight. The demonic energy inside the Great Wilderness Monument has been growing more intense over the years. Just a few years ago, it nearly burst out of the monument, Jiang Xue continued. Lin Dong's eyes narrowed. If that demonic energy escaped, the entire Great Wilderness Province would be wiped out. We tried many methods to contain it, but none worked. Then, just as the demonic energy was about to break free, something happened. Jiang Xue and Jiang Lei exchanged a complex look. What happened? Lin Dong asked, puzzled. The demonic energy that was about to break out was dispelled by In. Lin Dong was taken aback, and in his mind, the image of that little girl with big, sparkling eyes, incredibly adorable, flashed before him. She could actually dissolve the demonic aura? Yes, we're not entirely sure of the specifics, but it's a relief that she could resolve the issue. After that, we placed In inside the Great Wilderness Monument. It's strange. Once she took control there, the demonic energy started to dissipate. But soon after, it surged back again. So, they formed a standoff, and it's been like that ever since. Lin Dong's eyes filled with astonishment. He was well aware of how troublesome the demonic aura could be. How could a little girl who hadn't even cultivated properly have the ability to suppress it? It seems there's something inside the Great Wilderness Monument causing this, Lin Dong said with a faint smile. He had dealt with the alien demons far too often to not recognize this situation immediately. Something must be hiding within the monument. Jiang Xue nodded. She, too, had a vague feeling, but she couldn't confirm it. Let's open the Great Wilderness Monument and take a look, Lin Dong said, waving his hand. With him here, Jiang Xue clearly felt more at ease. She didn't hesitate and lifted her hand. A burst of light erupted from the Great Wilderness Monument, enveloping both of them. As the light faded, they had disappeared. Lin Dong opened his eyes slightly, and the scenery around him had changed. They were still in that desolate space, filled with countless ruins, remnants of a once thriving place. His gaze swept over the area, and he saw black energy seeping out of the ground in thin tendrils. His eyes narrowed slightly. Roar! As Lin Dong was inspecting the area, a shrill cry suddenly echoed from the distance. The howl was filled with pain and anger. It was the guardian. Lin Dong furrowed his brow and waved his sleeve. He and Jiang Xue shot toward the source of the cry. Within minutes, they arrived at a lone peak. On the summit, a dark figure was kneeling on one knee, constantly howling to the sky, a thick cloud of demonic energy radiating from his body. Behind him, on a large rock, sat a little girl in a yellow dress, looking somewhat helpless. She swung her snow-white legs, and a beam of light emanated from her body, enveloping the dark figure while continuously purging the demonic energy from him. Jiang Xue said, waving her hand toward the little girl. Sister. The little girl looked up in surprise. Her big eyes caught sight of Jiang Xue, and her small body jumped up and ran toward her. Jiang Xue quickly caught her, smiling faintly, and pointed toward the figure behind her. Guess who this is? The little girl turned to look and saw Lin Dong smiling at her. A flicker of thought crossed her eyes before her face brightened with joy. Big brother? Hearing that familiar childish voice, Lin Dong couldn't help but smile. He looked at In, who still looked exactly the same as she did years ago. Though he was puzzled, he nodded with a smile. As he nodded, the little girl joyfully ran over, her big, dark eyes filled with delight. At that moment, a soft breeze blew, lifting the hair from her forehead. Lin Dong then noticed a faint, almost imperceptible, mysterious talisman mark. His body suddenly trembled. That's the reincarnation seal? And